Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Dan and Frankie Go to Hollywood, a special spooktacular episode which is going out on Friday the 13th, of which we barely have any horror related content, but that is beside the point because I can be scary at the best of times. But anyway, for those of you who have no idea who we are, if it wasn't already obvious in the title of the podcast, my name is Dan.
And I'm Frankie.
So even though this episode is going out on Friday the 13th, of course, we're recording it a little bit earlier. And how are you feeling? Because you haven't been too well lately, have you? You poor thing.
No, yeah, I'm still sick.
What's wrong?
It's been, I just have a cold, but it's been days. And yeah, it's just been annoying the last few weeks. So yeah, but you've had a much happier time.
Look, I did a thing. Exactly 1 week ago today, I liked it so much I put a ring on it. And it put a ring on me. That's not a nice way to talk about my fiance, who's now my wife, because yes, I got married last Sunday, which is why we could. Yay!
Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, it's just been the most incredible thing. Like, it's that weird. I'm not going to talk too much about this because it's not a marriage podcast. It's a movie podcast. But yeah, it is one of those things that, like, even though you sort of wake up the next morning and of course things aren't really different, but it really does feel different. You know what I mean? Like, there is that kind of thing, like that symbolism and everything that goes with it that actually. It does make a difference. So yeah, no, we're super happy. Like, yeah, after 1 week, we're not ready to file for divorce yet. So we're doing all right.
That's a good sign.
I know. So yeah, we're the Jensen family now, which is just all sorts of crazy. But yeah, in the meantime, yes, of course, been trying to get movies watched and all that sort of stuff, but it hasn't been too easy. But yeah, because we figured, of course, this episode's going out on Friday the 13th, and we were like, oh, we should have done something spooktacular for this thing, and we kind of didn't. But we then consulted our scriptwriter. We said to Nobbins, hey Nobbins, how's about throwing us a horror-themed question / scenario? And he was good enough to give us not one but two. So how about we just jump straight into Nobbinsville?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so Nobbins has sent us this question. He said, riding high from the success of your previous efforts, The Witch, and if you don't know who The Witch is, please see the last few episodes. The Witch wants to gamble it all on a horror movie that will make her richer than Elon Musk. To do this, she has decided that you should make a horror movie combining the best of other horror classics. As per established doctrine, you will need to choose the best characters from films past representing the following archetypes and pick a classic scenario. So we've got the killer or killers, the final girl, the jock, the best friend of the final girl, the best friend of the jock, plus a classic director to bring this story to the screen. So, yeah, this has been a very interesting question, and it's going to make for quite an interesting couple of horror movies, I think. So, what have you come up with for yours?
Well, I'm missing a character, but I'll get to that.
Oopsies.
So I'm going just for a classic slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
But the killer is Dracula. Just to make it a fun, vampire slasher movie. I haven't thought about this either. I've just picked favorites, so I don't know how well everything's going to come together, but you can all decide for yourselves.
Hey, it's just going to make it more interesting.
So my final girl is Alice from Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And her best friend is Stokely, which from The Faculty, Clea Duvall.
Right. Mm-hmm.
and I have no jock because I know there's like fun jocks, but they're not really interesting to me, so I can't think of any that have stood out. I haven't watched any of those kind of movies for a while, and the friend character, you had the funny guys and the stoner guys and whatever, but the actual jocks, I can't think of any. And I tried to Google, and Google sucks now, so it didn't actually give me jocks from horror movies. It just gave me normal jocks. So I don't have a jock.
Or horror movie jokes.
Well, yeah, that. It's like, did you mean jokes? No.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to just give me a random jock and then see how he pairs with the best friend?
Oh, God.
Because you found a list that Google wouldn't give me, so do you remember anyone else on the list?
No, of course I don't.
Oh.
The one that I was kind of thinking, I don't really know, he wasn't really so much of a jock, but I almost added Kevin Bacon from Friday the 13th, because, he had that crop top, that 80s crop top, and,
yeah.
I was almost going to add him just for wearing a crop top. That's brave, you know?
I mean, yeah, I'm down with that. Okay.
Let's throw in the Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, okay.
I think he'd go well. My best friend of the jock, I don't know how particular Nobbins wanted to be with this, because he's from a horror comedy, and he's not really in this type of movie, but I think he'd be really good in an ensemble slasher movie. So my best friend is going to be Ricky Butler, who is Corey Feldman's character in The Burbs.
Oh, okay, right. That's cool. Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, that works.
And yeah, I think he'd be really good with prop top Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Directed by Wes Craven, because...
Okay.
Yeah. I just went for the obvious.
I'm assuming that the rule about bringing people back from the dead is acceptable in this case, then.
Well, I mean, Nobbins specified classic directors, so it's kind of implied, I imagine.
That is true.
I mean, Kevin Bacon, I don't think he's gonna be a jock in a movie wearing a crop top these days.
I don't know. I don't really. He might be keeping his bod pretty trim.
If we're bringing characters from old movies, then we can bring directors from that time as well.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
And I didn't mean Kevin Bacon can't wear a crop top now. I meant as a high school jock.
If he's listening. I
don't think he could quite pull that off.
Yeah. So just in case Kevin Bacon happens to be listening to this episode, we are not saying anything about. We are not body shaming Kevin Bacon in this episode at all.
We could definitely do a crop top. I'd be down for that. So, what's your movie?
All right. So, this is going to be a very interesting film. So, because Nobbins gave us the option of killers, I have included my all-time favorite with my current favorite. Which has been a lot of fun. So we, of course, have Sadako from the Japanese version of Ring, who is just, to me, the ultimate horror movie villain. I think the look is just scary as hell. The contrast of the black and white, not being able to see a face or anything. It's just, there is just something I absolutely find repulsive about that character so much, to the point where I love her. And not only that, she's just so menacing, But I've paired her with my current favourite, who is Art the Clown from the Terrifier films, because I've been rewatching the Terrifier movies, getting ready for the third one coming up. And because those movies, I'll obviously get into them a bit later, but those movies, they do have a lot of issues, of course. They're far from perfect films, but I just think that character makes those films. They are just infinitely rewatchable, mainly because of him. He, to me, combines all the best parts of the classic villains. You've got the sort of silent stalker a la Jason Voorhees. You've got the sort of, feisty, cheeky, menacing demon a la Freddy. You've got there's so many things. It's just all my favorite kind of classic horror villains merged into one. And so, yeah, I don't know really what the premise of this is going to be. I'm kind of thinking that Art the Clown is maybe getting pissed off because there are people that he wants to kill, but of course they're falling under the ring curse, and so they've only got 7 days to live, so he's got 7 days to try and find these people and kill them, maybe. So maybe it could end in a showdown between Sadako and Art the Clown. I mean, I know we had Sadako versus Kayako from The Grudge years ago, but that movie was so bad, I'm pretty sure I gave it a 0 out of 10. It was...
Yeah, Freddy versus Jason.
Freddy versus Jason. So I know Sadako has already been up against someone, but hopefully this will be an actual good movie. So for my final girl, there were a couple to choose from, but then I thought, you know what? I'll pick one and then the other one can be the best friend. So for my final girl, I've got Mia Allen, who was, of course, Jane Levy's character from Evil Dead, who, oh man, I mean, she is just so freaking cool, and she's Jane Levy, so what is not to love? But yeah, I thought she was just such a tough character, you know, and just so cool. Yeah, so she's going to be my final girl. For my jock... Yes, I did have to consult the Google machine, and I have come up with the character Stan Rosado, who was played by Sean Hatosi in The Faculty, funnily enough. And that ties in with...
Nice.
Yeah, well, that also ties in with our last episode, was it? Where we discussed Alpha Dog, because Sean was in that, and we talked about how he was in The Faculty, so he was the jock. For the best friend character, or for the final girl's best friend, I've got Grace, who was Samara Weaving's character from Ready or Not, because...
So you made your final girl a best friend?
Yeah.
I took the question as a friend character from a movie.
Well, yeah, she was the friend of the guy that she was marrying. Shut up. Look,
Do you know, I thought you were going to pick her for your final girl.
Well, that's what I mean. I was like, oh my
wondered
God,
if she would be the other one.
Well, no, because it just says the thing is just the best friend of the final girl. So that was the rule that was given. So no, I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, but it says pulling out characters from the classic movies. So I thought it was picking a friend. Okay.
Well, look, you know, we just interpreted it different ways. Exactly. So yeah. So no, she's the best friend, and then for the friend of the jock now. This is one of those unusual friendships. You wouldn't ordinarily think that these two would be friends, but I am going with Jimmy Mortimer, who was played by Crispin Glover in Friday the 13th Part 4. Because
I did think of him.
Right.
But then I was like, it's been so long since I've seen the film that I actually don't remember anything about him in the film except for the dancing scene.
Well, exactly. Oh, I mean, look, I've seen the film like 300 times, so there was the whole thing with the annoying friend character with his invisible computer and, you know, all that sort of shit, but but the dancing scene, that was just, and we're doing that again in my movie. Like, honestly,
oh yeah, they have to.
It's got to happen. So yeah, it's that's basically my movie. As far as a director, this was a tough one because there's so many really good horror movie directors out there at the moment. I might have gone with Fede Alvarez, but.
But Nobbins said classic movie director, so I took it as you couldn't do modern directors.
He did say a classic director. Yeah, okay. That changes everything then. So who would I go with? A supernatural slasher movie? Because I was going to go with Ty West, but yeah, no, you're right.
Really?
He did say, yeah, I really dig most of Ty West's stuff. Yeah, and I'm talking sort of his earlier films like there was a movie called The Sacrament. I don't know if you ever saw that. It was based on the Jonestown massacre. Like,
I've heard about it.
Oh, that film is amazing. And then there was, of course, House of the Devil. Like, you know, he's done some...
I have seen that.
Yeah. Like, he's done some really great stuff. All right, look, I'm gonna. In that case, I'm gonna just stick with Sam Raimi, who is in my list of my all-time favorite directors, because what that guy does with horror, and this would be really interesting as well, like seeing those characters in a Sam Raimi film. So, yeah, all right, I'm gonna stick with Sam Raimi then. So there you go. I don't really know, like, as far as a specific plot or anything. I think my plot speaks for itself. Yeah, so. And yours, Dracula in a slasher. Does he slash people with his teeth? Like, what does he do?
Well, that's how a vampire kills.
Yeah, that is true.
Rips their throats out and stuff.
Yeah. So. No, that works. Hey, I'm not knocking it. I want to see your film. All right. So there you go. That's our horror movie content. Being that when this episode goes out, it is Friday the 13th. But I think we should take a moment though, because today, as we're recording, is also quite a special day for one of our biggest fans of the show, and that is Mr. Fraser Jubb, all the way over in Scotland, who's having a birthday today. So, I would like to say a very big happy birthday to Fraser Jubb, and thank you for supporting us and everything that you've been doing, because you are a rad dude. Yeah, there you go. Birthday shout out. Woohoo! All right, well, let's... how about we move on to our new sort of a segment, I guess? Or is it a sub-segment or a... I don't know. Yeah, you can kick it in. You can throw us into this because this was your brainchild.
So, this is called Reelin in the Years, where we just want to highlight a few random films that are underseen or... underrated, that we don't really hear anyone talk about, but we think are worth watching. So we're just like putting them out there in case you've never heard of them, and then you can go watch them and see how great they are. And so we're just doing a year each time. So this is our second one. So we're going back to 2019 for this one.
We are. And if you're someone like the aforementioned Fraser Jubb, you'll add a lot of those films to your watch list on Letterboxd. Don't think we haven't noticed, mister. All right. So, yeah.
Also, we're not stalking. I just turned that feature on for a little while because I saw one of the best movies I've ever seen, and I wondered if anyone would add it to their watch list, so I wanted to check.
Yes.
And no one did.
Yeah.
But I did see that the movies from our last episode were being added, so thank you.
Yeah. No, we're not stalking at all, but honestly, Fraser, don't pack your wheelie bin so much next time, okay? The bin people don't like that, so maybe just, distribute your garbage evenly, and it makes it easier to go through as well. So I didn't realise until I was looking through the list of films from 2019, what an amazing year it was. Like, I'm just going through and looking at all these great movies that came out, and I'm like, holy shit, these were all released in the 1 year. I'm not going to go through them all now, but it absolutely blew my mind, like, just how big a year that was, and which is kind of crazy because, when you think about it, like the next year, the cinema industry just got absolutely obliterated by the pandemic. So, it was almost like Hollywood kind of went out with a bang. But of course, yes, there were a whole bunch of movies that are not discussed as much. So, would you like to go first?
Yeah, well, as per last time, I don't think it's obvious this time, but I feel like there's one movie that we may both have on our list, whereas the rest, I feel certain that you probably wouldn't have picked. Should I start with that one?
No, yeah, start with that one, because I doubt it. I don't think any of mine are ones that you've got.
This is the movie Villains.
Oh, right. Okay. No, I did not have that one.
Which has Bill Skarsgård and Micah Monroe, and they're a couple on the run, and they break into a house. I can't remember why. Or they break down.
Yeah, the car breaks down because they've just robbed
they break into the house.
A gas station or something.
Yeah. And get more than they bargained for.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
And it's a horror comedy, sort of a thriller horror comedy. And yeah, it's mostly a pretty good time. The ending I wish was a bit different.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's a great film, and I had never heard of it until I was looking through, I can't remember if it was Bill's or Micah's filmography, and then I just noticed that they both had that film, and I was like, oh, they're both in it, I have to watch it. And yeah, it was really good.
It was.
And then I told you to watch it.
You did, and I did watch it, and I nearly gave it 5 stars, except for that goddamn ending, because, yeah, that just... I'm still angry about that ending. Yeah, I don't think that movie came up in the list of 2019 films that I watched.
Well, I should just say, I do this the easy way of just looking at every film I've watched on Letterboxd and then filtering by the year. So I'm going by the Letterboxd years, and Letterboxd counts the first festival screening as the release date, not the wide release. So if it played in 2019... at a festival, but then didn't come out till 2020, then Letterboxd has it as a 2019 film, so that might be what happened.
Yeah, whereas I have not been using Letterboxd long enough to be able to do that, but so I resort to Wikipedia, which, no, it has Villains listed as a 2019 film, so...
You just missed
maybe either that or they, yeah, look, I don't know, either way, but no, definitely check out Villains. Fraser, add it to your list right now. So, all right, so with my movies, yeah, there are a few that I think people are going to go, what's he talking about? Like, of course I've seen it, but I still feel as though they're movies that not enough people talked about or whatever. So the first one on my list was Happy Death Day to You, which was the sequel to Happy Death Day, which I just thought was one of the freaking best horror comedies that's come out this century so far, because I love movies where someone is stuck in a time loop for a day. Like, I can't get enough of that plot device. And this was one of those rare sequels that I thought was as good as the first one. You know, it was a direct continuation. Like, you could, you know, edit the two films together and just make one super film. But yeah, it had all the fun of the first one, but it sort of expanded things and, you know, made things a bit broader and more interesting. It ended on a cliffhanger that, I mean, I'm still waiting for this third chapter to come out because I need to know what happens, because that was such a big cliffhanger. And yeah, I just absolutely loved that film. And so, yeah, but I do think the Happy Death Day films are movies that not enough people have seen. So, yeah.
I do remember that a lot of people complained about the second one because it was less horror. Like, it wasn't so much a horror movie as the first one, and it's kind of silly, I think, to... Like, they couldn't enjoy it because it wasn't horror, but I'm like, just enjoy it for what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I thought it was a terrific film. So, yeah. What's next on your list?
My next one is The Vigil, which is a horror movie that I've never really heard. Well, I heard I think I heard about it on a podcast or something that got it on my radar, but it doesn't really get talked about very much. But it's a film about I can't remember the name now, the Jewish custom where when someone dies and they get laid out in the house, someone has to sit up with them over the night.
Okay. Right.
And so this guy gets asked to do that for this old man that has died. And his wife's in the house, the old man's wife. And it's creepy. Like, it's one of the creepiest horror movies I've seen in a while. There's some really good, like, scary moments and everything in it. So, yeah, I recommend that one.
I can imagine that would be. I'm kind of diverting here, but have you ever seen a dead body? Like, in real life?
Yes. I went and saw my granddad at the funeral home.
Yeah. There was a friend's funeral I went to back in, I think it was 92 or something, and it was an open casket thing, and that just that was the most surreal experience. But of course, yeah, my brain was, as we're walking past and paying our respects, I'm just like, he's going to sit up and there's going to just have like whites in his eyes, and like my brain just went there. So yeah, no, I do find dead bodies extremely disturbing, even like photos and stuff, on the net or whatever, like not that I frequently go looking for that sort of thing, but yeah, so no, I can imagine that.
You should watch this movie then. I do have that on my list of possibilities for you to watch.
Okay.
So, you'll probably get around to it one day if you don't watch it on your own.
Okay, cool. Well, the next movie I'm going to mention is also a movie that is on my list of movies I want to make you watch at some point, and I did mention it at one point, but you wanted something happy, so you did not go with this one. This is a movie that I think I watched it because it was, on one of those movies that's on the lists of the most harrowing films of all time and stuff, and I was like, okay, let's check it out. And it is a movie called Hotel Mumbai, which is the true story, it's a, dramatization of a true story that happened, I can't remember now, I think it was about mid-2000s or something, in India, where there was a terrorist shooting incident that, sort of took place in a few locations, like this terrorist cell, sort of attacked a few areas, but one of them was this hotel that gunmen stormed and were murdering people, and this movie is extremely hard to watch because it's the way it's directed and filmed and everything. It is so realistic, you genuinely feel the tension when people are sort of cowering, trying to hide from the gunmen and stuff. But like the actual shootings and everything are just like, really, really brutal. And yeah, God, you feel it, and everything. And so I know there's a lot of people who would be like, well, no, I don't want to watch a movie like that. And that's fair enough. But for me, when I watch movies like this, I get this profound gratitude for, for what I have in my life. I sort of think, wow, my biggest problem right now is that I've got two screaming babies who possibly have a whole bunch of poo in their nappies and I need to change them. Like, oh no, this is fuck my life. But then you watch a movie like this and it sort of puts things in perspective, and I sort of think, yeah, things aren't that bad after all. But it's being that it was a factual incident and everything, it was kind of a interesting little snapshot of a dark piece of history. So I definitely recommend the film to anyone who's after a extremely disturbing film. So yeah. It's a good time.
Yeah. I recommend another one called The Art of Self-Defense.
Oh, okay, I've heard of it.
Which, a few people have seen this, but it's not overly talked about, so I'm going to count it as one. And it's also on Tubi at the moment.
Right.
So I watched this because Jesse Eisenberg is in it, so that's how I came to hear about it. And yeah, he gets attacked randomly on the street, so he decides he needs to learn how to defend himself, and then he just gets drawn into this world of like hypermasculinity and all this stuff, and
okay,
it's pretty interesting movie.
Yeah, right. I didn't really know too much about it. Like I said, I've heard of the title, but didn't know a lot about it. So,
it's pretty good, so you should watch it.
Right.
I think I have that in my list for you as well.
Right. My next one on the list is a film that I know not many people that I know of saw it, and it is kind of a niche film. I don't imagine everybody's going to be into it, but it was a movie that premiered on Netflix and is still there, and that was The Dirt, which was the story of Motley Crue. And it's, I mean, the movie was actually like co-produced by the band themselves, so it is a really accurate account of the story of the band, but look, it's, even if you not a Motley Crue fan, it is a really interesting and fun movie, and it's kind of one of those sort of underdog stories, because the band like really struggled to get on its feet at the start and everything, and then of course became one of the biggest bands in the history of rock music. But it had like really good performances. Some of the things that happen in the film, you're just like, there's no way that could have possibly happened, and then you sort of find out, it's like, holy shit, wow, okay, like Ozzy Osbourne really did snort a line of ants by a pool in a hotel. That was a fun film. So yeah, no, I definitely recommend that one. It's a shame it's not getting a physical release though. That's one thing I will say. I was so pissed. I was like,
because it's Netflix.
Exactly, and the band didn't want to. Well, maybe they were like contractually obliged or something.
Well, yeah, I'd say it's probably part of the deal.
Yeah, because I really wanted, and I mean, oh my god, like a commentary by the band themselves would have been amazing, but it's something we're never going to get. So, and I can't believe that movie's 5 years old now. Holy shit! Anyway, please continue.
Next one I'll mention briefly because I talked about it a few episodes ago back when I watched it, but the movie Bait.
Oh yeah.
Which is set in a small fishing town, and it's two brothers that are kind of against each other because one is using the family fishing boat to do tours for tourists instead of for fishing, but it's just filmed in a really interesting way. It's filmed on like a old style camera that was hand cranked 16mm film and then processed by the director, and then all the sound, of course, because of that, had to be added in afterwards.
Yeah, right.
Which I didn't notice when I was watching, but yeah, it's just such a mood. It's like 4:3 aspect ratio, and it just almost feels like a documentary of the people in this town, but there's just really interesting choices in the way that he shot it and everything, and it's very unique. So I still haven't got around to seeing the other film because it's still not available here, but yes, I recommend Bait.
Yeah, no, I do remember you talking about that one. It actually intrigued me very much to the point where I still haven't gotten around to watching it, but I'll get there.
Yeah, well, it's still only available via rental. So.
Yeah, right. Do you think, like, if you took the movie Switch from 1991 with Ellen Barkin, do you think that'd make a really good movie double? Bait and Switch? Bait and Switch. Yeah. All right, so... My next movie that I've got is it is definitely going to be one that there's going to be a lot of people who are like, what the hell? How can that possibly be a unseen movie? But I'm throwing Brightburn into the list because I do feel it is a movie that doesn't get talked about a huge amount, and that of course was a horror film that took the premise of what if Superman landed on Earth as a baby but grew up evil instead of good. And I thought it was fantastic. Aside from the cool premise, there was some really nasty, brutal kills in it. It was actually kind of scary in parts. And yeah, I just absolutely loved that film. I've seen it several times, and I have a Brightburn pop vinyl as well. So yeah, that's how much I love it. You don't love something truly unless you own the pop vinyl. What do you got next?
We Summon the Darkness.
Ah, right.
Which is a fun movie. It's set in the 80s, and it's about friends going to a metal concert. So that's always a good time. And then they meet some girls there, and then things go bad.
Yeah, that one's been on my radar, actually. I don't think I've seen it yet, though. Who's in that film?
Main is Alexandra Daddario.
Oh, okay.
Is that why it's on your radar?
No, it's not.
Logan Miller's in it, and I don't know. Oh, and Johnny Knoxville, and then I don't know any of the other names.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. No, I have been wanting. No, Alexandra Daddario, I think, is a terrible actress. So that is definitely not something that would pique my interest. But
I thought you liked her.
No, I don't. I don't know what gave you that idea. Is it because I'm a male, and as a male I'm supposed to like her, or like for obvious reasons?
No, I just thought that you talked about her, but I guess it was somebody else.
I've never talked about her, no. I mean, yeah, she does have a very nice pair of eyes. But other than that, yeah, she's a terrible actress. Yeah, no, I definitely want to see that film. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that one. I've got two more. I'm leaving the best one till last, but the second last one I'm going to mention is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Have you seen that one?
Which one?
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, man. It was so surprisingly good. Like, I went to the cinema thinking to myself, oh, I wonder if it's going to be kind of like a, you know, family kind of a film or whatever. But there were some really freaking creepy, like, moments in that film that kind of etched into my brain forever. But yeah, no, it was a really cool sort of anthology of stories that were all tied together, you know, as they usually are. But yeah, no, very well done. Had some really great characters. And yeah, just overall, I thought that film was terrific. So yeah, that's a good fun horror film, that one. So yeah, highly recommended.
I didn't have another one, but I'll just throw one in there since you still have one more.
I do.
Satanic Panic is pretty fun.
Right, another movie that's on my radar.
That's yeah, a pizza delivery girl comes to a house and then gets caught up with a group of Satanists who need a virgin for their sacrifice.
Sounds more like devil worshippers than Satanists, but we're just like, you know, nitpicking now.
Well, yeah, it's the Satanic Panic times, so
exactly.
They're all Satanists.
Yeah, well, yeah. The last film, though, on my list, oh my god, this is a movie that I saw it in February of that year, and it retained the number one spot for the entire rest of the year. Nothing came close to being this brilliant. So there's a movie called Fighting with My Family. Now, I saw the trailer for it. No, I think I saw the poster for it at first, and I thought, I didn't realize that it was, you know, sort of a true story about a wrestler named Paige. And I saw the poster, but I thought it was kind of like a family sitcom kind of a film, and I just ignored it. Then I saw the trailer, and it was directed by Stephen Merchant, and Florence Pugh was playing the lead role, and at that point I didn't know who she was. But I saw the trailer, and I thought, oh, actually, that looks kind of interesting. And then so I got invited to a press screening and thought, look, what the hell, you know, I'll go see it. Oh my god, this film is like 100 out of 10. It is just one of the best films. So it's got everything, you know. It's like it's a really funny comedy. I mean, like, it is just gut-bustingly hilarious. The story was, even if you like, I'm not into wrestling, but you know, it was a really fascinating story. You know, this sort of girl who just came from nowhere and, you know, became like one of the biggest wrestling names around. And so, you know, you got sort of the underdog story. It was triumphant. It was just so many things in this film. You know, the drama element was really interesting. There's just not enough words I can say that, you know, to make it sound as good as it is. But that would be the one movie out of everything from 2019 that I would strongly recommend to people. Yeah, and it is a movie that I have been trying to get you to watch. So we'll get there one day, because, yeah, you need to see it. So, yeah. All right. Cool. All right, well, speaking of movies, what have you been watching over the last 3 weeks? Not 2 weeks, but 3. Surely you've got about 200 movies to choose from.
I did. Well, actually, I haven't watched much recently because I've been sick and had stuff going on. So there wasn't too many, but I still had to just sort of pick out the best ones. I think I mentioned last time that I watched that Cinderella story movie with the girl that I've forgotten her name.
Ah, yes, her. Such a great actress. She was in that movie that has a name.
My brain is not working. Bailey Madison.
Right.
I couldn't remember what her surname was.
Fair enough.
And so she was in a horror movie called Play Dead with Jerry O'Connell that I remembered seeing the trailer for. And so I watched it, and it's a weird movie. It's silly and it's unbelievable. There's like so many things that happen that you're just like, I can't believe like that would never happen.
Right.
Why are they doing that? And all of that. But it's still like kind of watchable and fun, even though it's stupid and you're rolling your eyes at some of the things that this character does. Also, Jerry O'Connell, like for when he's introduced, for a lot of time he doesn't speak. Like it takes a while before he starts talking.
Right.
And he is so sinister in this, and that's really hard for my brain to accept. And so that really added to his character, like made him more creepy that it was Jerry O'Connell playing this character. And then also it has this one scene near the end that makes everything, like it was fine, but even if it didn't have good stuff and was just all the silly and unbelievable stuff, it would still be worth watching because there's one really cool scene at the end that's got to be one of my favorite like horror movie scenes. And I can't say what happens because it's a spoiler. But it's basically something that happens to someone, and you kind of, this thing happens and you're just like, oh my god, that just happened, and then something happens following on from that. That was just the coolest thing I ever seen. Wow. I loved that part of it. So yeah, I do highly recommend it for that one scene. That's like a 5-star scene, but just know that the rest of the movie is pretty silly. Okay.
Yeah, no, I do remember the trailer coming up, and I thought Jerry O'Connell was quite unrecognizable at first as well. Like it took me a sort of minute to realize that it was actually him, but yeah, no, I'm actually very keen to see that, but yeah, I'll get around to it. First one on my list was kind of an unusual film that I would ordinarily have never watched, but after we had watched Macbeth for the last one, Kylie, my wife, she had this movie she wanted me to watch called O from 2001. Which was one of those, sort of modern retellings of a Shakespearean tragedy, which was Othello, which is one of his most famous plays. And yeah, like I said, ordinarily I probably wouldn't have checked it out because I know there's been a lot of these ones, like 10 Things I Hate About You and, all of those sort of teen drama sort of films that came out around that time. But I'm really glad I watched this one. This was actually really good. It had Mekhi Phifer, Josh Hartnett, and Julia Stiles were in the main roles, and it was really well done. The way that I've never actually read Othello, and I didn't really know too much about it. But as we're watching this film, you sort of you're realizing exactly how it took all of the classic Shakespearean tropes and put them in this film. There's a lot of kind of manipulation. Like one character is just manipulating things, to get his way and sort of causing this love triangle and which, ends in a great big tragedy and stuff. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I can pretty much gather exactly what happens in Othello now. But they did a lot of clever things with the names of the characters as well. The way they sort of took them from like the Shakespearean characters and changed the names to update them into more modern kind of setting and stuff. But I actually really enjoyed it. I would actually definitely watch that one again. I had quite a good time with it. So there you go. That was a surprise.
Well, I'm going to talk about two together because I can't say much about one of them.
Sure.
But Strange Darling came out recently,
right,
and played at one cinema in Brisbane, as far as I can tell. But the night before that, I was like in the mood for some Carl Gallner while I was thinking about seeing Strange Darling the next day. So I decided to watch The Haunting in Connecticut, which was 99-cent rental. So mixed reviews, but it's a horror movie. Horror movies always get mixed reviews. But I thought this was going to be like a Conjuring type movie, and it turned out to be pretty different. It felt more like a family drama with a bit of horror thrown in, rather than a full-on horror movie. So Carl Gallner plays this kid who has cancer, and the mum's been driving him long distances to the hospital for treatment, so the family decide to move to a house closer so he doesn't have to have these long drives while he's sick. So they move into this house that has a history, and then hauntings start to happen, and they're affecting him. He's like seeing things and whatever and starting to act different, and it's figuring out what's going on in the house. And because, he gets this cool, well, it's not cool, but he gets the basement room in the house, and there's these doors that they can't open. And then when they eventually open them, it was like a mortuary. Okay. Because it was a funeral home originally. So it's all kind of stuff from that. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I quite liked it because it was so different. Even though, don't watch it for a scary horror movie, because it's got some horror imagery, but it's not like a Conjuring movie where that's the main focus. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good, and you could see that he was going to become a big actor because he was really good at doing it.
I've actually got to. I've got to have look. You keep talking. My movie shelves are right behind me. I've actually just got to go and have a look because I've got a feeling I own that movie, but I'm not 100% sure. So, and my headphones aren't going to reach, so I'm going to be taking these off just for a second. So I'll be right back while I go and have a look and see if I own this movie.
Okay, so then the next day I went to see Strange Darling, which is one of my anticipated films of the year that I knew nothing about because very early on I saw someone online say, don't know anything about the movie before you go into it. So I avoided everything, didn't watch the trailer. The poster was pretty much all I had seen. Oh, you do own it. I do
own it. I have it on Blu-ray. I thought it...
Have you watched it?
I think I have. I don't remember it. But as you're talking about it, I'm sort of vaguely thinking to myself, that sounds a little familiar, but I don't know why I own it or anything. But there you go. I have it in my collection. Yeah. So,
so I'm not going to say much about the movie because, try not to know anything about it. But basically, it's set in a time where there's a serial killer on the loose, which it tells you right at the beginning of the movie, and it's told in 6 chapters, but not in order, so that's a really cool way to tell the story. You're trying to piece everything together as it's going along, and I liked that because I thought one thing, and then I thought, no, I think this is happening, and then I went back to my original, and so it was really fun. Okay. And Giovanni Ribisi is a really good cinematographer. It looked really good. It was shot on film too, so he's like, doing it properly. Yeah. So, I probably shouldn't say that. But
I know what you mean.
Doing it the, most authentic film way. And, it looks really good. And the lighting that gets used and everything. So, it's a very good movie.
Well, I recommend
watching it. I don't know how quickly it's going to become easily available to watch, but yeah, definitely seek it out when it does and try. I don't know, I haven't watched the trailer to see how much it actually showed in the trailer, but I recommend going in completely blind if you can.
I will be. Yeah, no, it was one of those things because I kind of have a photographic memory of my movie collection, and so, you know, when you mentioned the title, I just had this recollection of seeing the spine with the name on it. That's why I suddenly thought to myself, hey, I think I own it, but I'll have to give it another watch because, yeah, like I said, I don't really remember it, so yeah, I'm glad that I have it on standby. So yeah. Cool. Well, I've got another movie that I ordinarily wouldn't have ever watched, but the wife was like, I'm going to make you watch this one next. We did go through a sort of a thing where I was like, all right, let's watch lots of your movies, because she has this massive list of movies that she wants to show me, and I'm perfectly happy to watch them. But this was a movie from 2006 called The Guardian with Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher, which I had never heard of, but it was directed by Andrew Davis, who did The Fugitive. So, you know, I was like, well, okay, that's a very respectable film. And then I looked, and he's also done Under Siege and Collateral Damage, Above the Law, also with Steven Seagal. And I'm like, what? Is this the same guy? Like, so Above the Law and Under Siege with Steven Seagal were directed by the guy who did The Fugitive. Okay. So I thought I'd check this out. And, yeah, this movie was really good. It was kind of, so it's about US Coast Guards, and it starts off, the film starts off with a incident that, like, is a sort of big, you know, massive spectacle kind of a thing that you're just like, oh my god, wow, that's so cool. Like a, you know, not a good spectacle, but something bad happens, and it's like, whoa, I'm hooked. And so yeah, it's basically Top Gun but with Coast Guards. In my mind, I called it Top Guard. You've got, you know, like Kevin Costner plays a, you know, sort of a veteran Coast Guard who's a trainer. Ashton Kutcher is the brash young hotshot maverick kind of character who, you know, and so yeah, it's sort of about the training and stuff, and then, you know, a la Top Gun, sort of at the end, you've got the big incident that they've got to go out to and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, but no, it was really enjoyable. It was
when did this come out?
2006 this came out. Yeah, but yeah, no, I really liked it. It was yeah, probably because it does have that familiarity, you know, of the sort of Top Gun method of storytelling, but it wasn't like, you know, too close to Top Gun or anything like that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be as enjoyable, surely.
Yeah, well, no. And it did lack a...
Sorry to Top Gun fans, but I absolutely love Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
It's one of, like, the best films of recent years. Original Top Gun.
The one thing that Guardian was lacking was a homoerotic beach volleyball scene of oiled up men, but you know, not every movie can have that, so yeah. But no, I definitely recommend it. It was yeah, if, you know, if you're after something of that ilk, yeah, definitely a movie worth checking out.
Wow, for something completely different, I watched one of the greatest movies I've ever seen.
Oh.
In
was
this
that the
last time?
short film that I made from 2014? You finally got around to watching it. Yay! No.
No.
Damn it. Have you read the story that I wrote, the short story that I gave you years ago?
Oh, come on. I've barely read anything at all this year.
I'm just busting your chops. What's the best movie you've ever seen that you saw recently? Come on, what is it?
It's called Werkmeister Harmonies.
Bless you. Oh, that's the title, right. Okay.
Yeah. That comes from Andreas Werkmeister, who's a composer. But this is by Bellatar, so it's a Hungarian film.
Right.
And it's very different. It's hard to explain. It's the kind of movie that you just need to experience because it's got such a mood. Bellatar is this is my first Bellatar film, so I'm very new to the info. But from what I hear, he's one of the gets compared to Tarkovsky in the part of the slow cinema movement.
Right.
So it's the kind of films that if you can't sort of settle in with a film and need a lot of action and editing and things happening, then this is not the movie for you. But it's very cool. It's in black and white. It's about what is it, like 139 minutes. That seems, I thought my thing said longer. Anyway, I don't know. I'm sure I read something. But anyway, so it's that long, and it only has 39 shots in the whole film, which averages out to, this is a fun thing I heard, averages out to 4.5 minutes per shot.
Okay.
If you take like a modern blockbuster movie like a Bourne Identity or whatever, the average shot length is like 1.3 seconds.
Wow, that's a bit of a difference.
So, and this movie opens with what I've heard someone say was about 12 minutes, like a 12-minute scene. And it's a group of men, because it's set in a small village in Hungary, and it's a group of men in a tavern, and the owner is like, just put the fire out and is telling them to leave. And they're like, oh no, we've gotta wait. And so this guy comes who's Lars Rudolph playing Janosch, who's the main guy we follow in the film, and he comes and he's explaining to them how the universe works with like the Earth revolving around the sun and the moon around the Earth, and then when a solar eclipse happens. But he's doing that by, like, he pulls a guy to be the sun and then another guy to be the Earth, and then like he's spinning them around and going around, and it's this big, like, the camera's just moving all over the place, and he's just talking, and it sets up the film, but it's also kind of it sets the tone. And I thought this, and a lot of, like, I loved it, and I was like, oh, this movie's going to be special. And because I went looking for podcast episodes of people talking about this afterwards, so because I'm like, I have to hear discussions about this, because there was no audio commentary or anything on the disc, so I had to go to podcasts. And I've heard someone say it's like a 12-minute short film, and it's like, you know, like the best short film, like everyone loves it that loves the film. But yeah, the film basically follows this guy. He's like a mail delivery kind of guy, and so he's walking around the town, and there's lots of, like, you're just there with him going, and he's like caretaking for what may be his uncle. I don't know if they're his relatives or it's just a cultural thing to call older people aunt and uncle. So, but either way, could be, could not be. And the big thing of this movie is there's a circus coming to town that has this giant whale and a special guest called the Prince. And so Janosch is very interested in the whale, and it's basically, this comes to town. The prince has been causing unrest everywhere, and so it kind of sets off, like, bad things in the town.
Yeah, right.
But it's very much like there's a beautiful music playing that's almost like heartbreaking to listen to, because it's so beautiful. And yeah, it just, I don't know, I was completely captivated, like, the whole time. There's one kind of moment in the scene that's very poignant, or I don't know if that's the right word, but it has, like, it's obviously meant to have a big impact, and it did. And even when I watched it the second time, because I had to watch it again, it still had an impact, even though I knew it was coming that time. But yeah, I love this movie. And what's really interesting too is I thought the mouth of Lars Rudolph was a bit out of sync in the opening scene, and then I found out at the end that the three main actors are German, and apparently Hungarian is a hard language to learn, so they dubbed their parts so that it would sound, you know, natural for the Hungarian audience. So that's why it didn't seem to fit. But I only noticed it in that scene and not the rest of the movie. But yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Well, you ended up watching this movie twice, didn't you, over the last few weeks?
Yeah, well, because like a week later, I just had to watch it again.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
No, that's
so
so cool. What I also think is cool is the fact that, you know, when we started this podcast, you were always like, oh, you know, I'm not like a, you know, film intellectual sort of, I'm just going to be talking about how pretty people's outfits were and all this sort of stuff. And here you are, like, that was the most, like, academic level film review I think you've ever given.
You know why, though? It's because I listened to those other people on the podcast talk about it and absorbed some of that.
Yeah.
So I could pass it on.
I mean, God, you even threw in the word poignant. I mean, holy shit! I'm sitting here just like, whoa! You broke out the P word. This is next level. So, no, well done. No, that was no. You've got me so intrigued. I actually like did a lot of research on it and stuff, and it does sound like quite a remarkable film. So,
what's interesting is Bellatar has a film, Satan Tango, which is I don't know if that's the most watched one, but it's talked about a lot. 7.5 hours.
Oh yeah,
and I'm intrigued because it's based on a book. This Werkmeister Harmonies is based on a book by an author that also wrote Satan Tango and at least one other book that Bellatar has turned into a film.
Okay.
And apparently Satan Tango is the most, like, it's a really authentic telling of the book, which is probably why it's 7.5 hours, because it's so faithful to the book.
Right.
But in listening to the podcasts and people talking about Werkmeister Harmonies, there always was one guy who, told the other guys to watch it because they liked it so much. And two of the guys on the two different podcasts that loved this film said they didn't like Satan Tango.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how that's going to go. I hope I will like it and other films. Curzon are actually releasing a big box set of all of Bellatar's films in November. So I think I have to buy it.
Okay. Yeah, no, it sounds...
I have started reading the book that Werkmeister Harmonies is based on. And it's interesting. I haven't got very far because I've been sick and I haven't felt like reading. But yeah, the book doesn't have a central character. So it's interesting to see how... I've already so far read a couple of things that have happened in the book that, you know, got changed in the movie to be our central character in the movie experiencing it. And I've only heard mention of this guy in the book once, and it sounds like they may have changed his character a bit from the book and made him more likable. So I'm curious to see. But also I got it on ebook because the paperback was like $30-something and the ebook was $12. And I'm kind of glad I did because the author doesn't do paragraphs. Oh. And so it's just a block of text. And so reading it on my Kobo, it's quite a small screen, so you don't really notice it. Whereas if I had a paperback and I had 2 pages chock full of text with no paragraphs. But yeah, the Kobo's been okay. I haven't really noticed it. And so far the writing has been really good. So I've been really, I've been too involved in the story to think about the lack of paragraphs. Okay. So,
oh, wow. Yeah, no, that sounds like a challenge, but especially for people like me who don't read. But, I mean, I can read. Never mind. Cool. All right. Well, my next choice, was a film that you and I went and saw it. I fucking loved it. And I, for some reason, even though we saw this movie back in the start of 2022, I just hadn't gotten around to rewatching it yet. And that is, of course, Babylon, which was a movie that it affected me that much that I remembered almost every single scene in the film.
It was a long movie, so that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, for a 3-hour film, the fact that I remembered pretty much every single scene, which is kind of, I think one of the reasons why I didn't sort of rush to rewatch it, I mean, I bought it the day that it came out on Blu-ray, and it had just sat on my shelf, but I really wanted to show Kylie, and so we finally got around to sitting down and watching it, and I love that film just as much as I did on the day that we saw it at the premiere. Oh man, it is just... It's that kind of movie that, you know, you get to the end of it and you sort of feel like you've watched about 4 different films. You kind of got to process everything. I thought all the performances were out of this world. The cinematography was just nuts. There were so many single take shots that were just so meticulously planned and everything. And, of course, Margot Robbie just played one of the greatest characters I've ever seen in a movie. And that scene where, if you remember, where she's... because she's an absolute wild child, and there's a scene where she goes... Like, they've got to sort of reinvent her persona, and so she goes... They put her in this situation where she's in a room full of very prim and proper elites, you know, at a lunch party or something, and she's got to act a certain way, but then, you know, she just gets to a point where she's just like, fuck this, and just goes into who she really is. And oh god, that scene is such a triumph to me, because, you know, I love that shit. I love, you know, when people defy expectations and just be themselves. And oh man, every time I see that scene, well, every time, both times, I've just wanted to applaud the screen, you know. But Brad Pitt, I thought, was fantastic. Just, I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole cast because there's so many people in this film, but, you know, above all, like, yeah, it was just such a beautiful love letter to cinema. And, I mean, remember when we went to it and, like, there were all these people who got up and were leaving, like, you know, before the movie ended, and I'm just like... What are you guys doing?
Yeah, it almost like they just assumed, oh, we're at the end now, so let's go so we can get out of the car park quicker, or whatever reason they were leaving before it even had the credits come up.
I know. That was just so disrespectful. But, yeah, so... No, oh my god, I love that movie so freaking much. Actually, now that I've busted the Blu-ray open, I should probably start exploring some of the special features when I can, because I haven't even done that yet. But, yeah, so... No, it is still an absolute favourite of mine. I reckon if... I mean, we'll obviously see what happens, but, I mean, when we get to the end of this decade, it might even, like, make my top 10 films for this decade. That's how much I love it, even though I've only seen it twice now. But, yeah, I have a very deep love for that film, so I was very happy I finally got to watch it again. Yeah. Speaking
of beloved films, after watching Werkmeister Harmonies twice, and I always found it interesting because mainly I know Lars Rudolph from Run Lola Run.
Okay, yep.
His small role is bank teller.
Ah, right.
And Run Lola Run got released on 4K, so I rushed out to buy it because it's one of my favourite movies. So I watched it again.
Did you run, Frankie,
I've actually
run?
been really lucky.
Because you rushed out to buy it? So, yeah. Please continue.
Yeah, I don't run. Yeah, I remember it's a special movie to me. I saw it the penultimate weekend before I left New Zealand. A friend took me to the cinema to see it, and I loved it so much that the last weekend I was in New Zealand, I took another friend to go see it. And then I don't know, it's weird to me how the timing worked, but when I moved here and I got a job, I remember rushing to the Regent Cinema that doesn't exist anymore to after work one day, because they used to have like a, must have been like a 5:15 session or something. Right. And I watched it again because I loved it that much. And then Palace a couple of years ago had brought it back for some reason. So I took a girl from work who'd never seen it. So yeah, I've seen it 4 times at the cinema. So yeah, I was very happy to upgrade.
Actually, I remember you invited me to that one.
Yeah, you couldn't make it for some reason.
Yeah, I can't remember why, because it was a while back, but I do remember that because I saw it when it first came out on the big screen. Because what year was it? 97, I want to say?
99.
99, was it? Okay. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I was working in a cinema at the time, so I was kind of like, watching absolutely everything. And yeah, I loved it. I mean, I loved that whole structure and, the way that the movie plays out. Like, yeah, that was such a brilliant film. So, yeah, actually, I think I'm about due for a rewatch of that film because, I really enjoyed it. But that's very cool. So, how does the 4K transfer look like? Does it look amazing?
Looks very good. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I'm not on board 4K, but I appreciate that other people are, and so yes, I'm not going to rain on your 4K parade, so to speak. Cool. Well, the last two that I've got I can lump in together. So, of course, Terrifier 3 is coming out very soon, and Kylie hadn't seen the Terrifier films, and I was like, oh, we need to watch them. So we put the first one on, and yeah, I loved her reaction to so many things, especially the hacksaw scene, which I'm not going to go into detail, but...
How can you not react to that scene?
But it was the exact reaction I was hoping for. It was just this look of... She was aghast and everything, but by the end was like, oh my God, that was so cool. And I'm like, yes, I married the right person. But... Yeah, and so then, she loved that film and was like, oh my God, need to watch Terrifier 2 ASAP. And so I actually went and bought the Blu-rays, which was good because the night we decided to watch the second one, I went to Shudder, I believe it was, and popped it on because I just looked, the disc was too far away, like about 2 meters. Hey, when you got newborns in your arms, like everything is too far away. And so we just thought, look, let's just put it on streaming. My God, it got to the point we made it as far as the opening credits, and I had to go and bust the disc out because it just, the image quality just kept dropping to way below DVD quality. It was like this, I wouldn't say distorted, but it was very fuzzy, and it'd stay like that for about 10-15 seconds and then go back to normal, but then like 2 minutes later or a minute later it'd drop back again, and like it just kept happening. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, I'm so happy that we still have physical media. So put the disc in, and
well, that's why I could never rely on streaming because if I go to watch a movie via streaming and there's internet issues, then I'm just like, okay, I'll watch that tomorrow. I'll go pick something from my shelf to watch tonight. So I'll wait till the internet's back to normal.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no way we could have gone through the whole movie with the quality just continually dropping like that, But no, look, I've kind of got a love-hate relationship with these films. Like, as I said earlier, like they are so riddled with flaws. To me, the first one, I kind of felt it showed its budgetary restrictions by mostly being shot in just this one little dank location, the basement of a building kind of thing. Like, and then the second one I thought was imperfect because the runtime was so excessive. A movie like that should not go for 2 hours and 18 minutes. So I just sort of felt by the end it kind of lost steam. And then there was also things that happened in the end of the second one that you just kind of scratch your head and like, but hang on, how did that happen? Which I'm not going to get into spoilers, but something with the main girl, like, it's just sort of like, but it's one of those things that there are so many things that I love about the films that, I can kind of overlook the things I don't like. I mean, like I said before, Art the Clown, I just think is he deserves a place up there with Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Leatherface. He really does. I think the design of the character looks amazing. The performance by what was his name? David. Hang on, this is me looking it up. David Howard Thornton. See, I was going to say Thornton Howard, but anyway. This guy is so freaking awesome. I mean, there's so many scenes where brutal things are happening, but you're laughing your ass off because of Art's reaction to things, the way he gleefully does these atrocities, it's kind of crazy. But not only that, I think it's also I follow the guy on social media and everything, and he's one of us. He is a movie fan who got lucky, and he doesn't act like he's kind of like, hey, I'm Art the Clown. This guy goes to conventions dressed in costume and mingles with people who don't actually realize that it's actually him and stuff like that. I just think that's so cool. He is so connected to the fans and so grateful for the opportunities he's been given and stuff. And I love that, and that makes me love the films even more. I wanted to go and buy them just because the people who made them love what they do. And I know Nobbins gave Terrifier 1 star and basically said it was just, seen it all before and everything. I
know a lot of people were quite down on the first one. At least at the time I watched it, I remember I really enjoyed it. And then when I went online afterwards, I realized that it had a lot of bad reviews.
Look, I can't... Yeah, obviously it wears its influences on its sleeve, but it doesn't pretend
Although I
not
think
to.
Also, it's a bit more mean-spirited, which I think...
Oh, totally, yeah.
I think there are people that don't like that, as in, their taste, that they are not so into movies that have that mean spirit.
That's a valid point. But no, I think, look, if the movie, did that thing of imitating things that have come before, but trying to pretend it was something new, that would be a different thing. But the fact that it knows what it's doing, this movie knows it's a tribute to horror classics and stuff, and so I can't criticize it for that. And I love doing this because Nobbins can't say anything because he's not here, so but and then the second one I really
I have to watch them again. I watched the first one before the second one came out, so I haven't seen either of them since then.
Well, you and I went and
I've never
saw the second
seen
one.
the original one. Is it All Hallows?
All Hallows Eve, yeah. I know that's...
Yeah, I still have to watch that. But all three are streaming on Broly, so I'm going to check them out before they do.
Well, luckily, All Hallows Eve is actually one of the bonus features on the first disc, which I think is kind of weird that a feature film is a bonus feature, but...
It does happen, which I quite like when that happens. It's like, yay, bonus movie.
Yeah. So, we haven't gotten around to... We wanted to watch it a couple of nights ago, but I had homework movies, of course. So, but no, then the second one, despite the excessive runtime and everything, I loved that it was a much broader film. I love the setting of the carnival, and everything. I thought was just amazing. And it had some really outstanding kills and stuff in it, and I thought the character of Sienna, I thought she was great. I loved the chemistry between her and her brother. There were so many things I loved about it. So they're the kind of movies that, even though, I know the second one has a stupid runtime and kind of loses traction by the end and everything, but I'll rewatch it over and over again, because there are so many things that I have so much fun with. And the inclusion of the pale girl in the second one as well.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Oh yeah, Kylie and I are watching that. We're like, okay, Halloween this year, I'm going, she said, I want to go as the pale girl if you want to go as Art the Clown. I'm just like, oh my God, yes, 1,000 times yes. So we're going to try and get those costumes happening by Halloween this year, which would be so freaking cool. I just want to walk the streets dressed like that. So no, look, I love, and look, Kyla's the same. She had problems with them, but the last 2 days she has been constantly asking me, "Is Terrifier 3 out yet?" And I'm like, "No, not yet." And then, a couple of hours later, it'll be like, "Is it out yet?" And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. So, we're really keen for the third one. So, I just find it's unusual to have that kind of relationship with films. Normally if it's a film you love, you just love it because you love it, whereas these ones, yeah, I'm sort of conflicted, but overall I definitely love them. And not only that, I think it was after we watched the first one, Kylie went online and ordered 3 of the Art the Clown pop vinyls already. Like I said, you don't truly love a movie until you got the pop vinyls. So those are the movies I've been watching. You got anything else?
I will just mention I have brought back Shannon September.
Yay! And what is that for people who don't know?
In 2022, which is watching a Michael Shannon movie every day in September. Except when I first did it in 2022, I loved it and I saw a lot of films for the first time. But then I had total burnout when it came to October because I'd already spent 30 days watching a movie every day. So I skipped it last year because it felt too much.
Of course.
But I wanted to bring it back. And so I changed it up this year and thought I'll include TV as well so that I can, on days where I have less time, just watch a TV episode instead of a movie. So the first 6 days in September, I watched Waco for the second time because I love this series. It's so interesting, has a lot of cool people. I think this possibly is the show I watched that made me realize that Michael Shannon is a favorite because I really like his performance in this. And Taylor Kitsch, who I knew pretty much just from Friday Night Lights. And so he's playing David Koresh because this is about the siege at Waco. And he's really good at that. And it's just so weird when I think about his character in Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, right.
And now he looks so different. And yeah, he was really great. Rory Culkin's in it with Julia Garner after I had seen Electric Children, which they were both in. And Shea Wiggum, of course, turning up, being an asshole like he does so well in movies. But yeah, it's really quite interesting, and it's based on a book by one of the survivors, and also the book by the FBI negotiator that Michael Shannon plays. And so it's quite interesting because I didn't realize that, no one knows for sure exactly what started the whole thing off because the FBI says it's all of them, they were doing it, they were planning this mass suicide, and that's it. But then the other side is that the FBI kind of went at them, and then in the end, basically they ended up trapped in the building and couldn't get out, and that's how they died because they couldn't get out. And so it's quite interesting. The series got a bit of flack from some people for saying it was too sympathetic towards David Koresh, and I guess because it's based on the book by one of the survivors, it's kind of got that input from that side. So, but I mean, just taking it as who knows what really happened, but watching the show is very interesting. There's really great performances. They did make a sequel series called The Aftermath, like Waco, The Aftermath, and that's why I rewatched this one, because then I'm going to watch that series this month as well, which I haven't seen before, which has a few characters back from the first series. Be interested to see how that goes. So I recommend that show.
Cool. All right. Well, speaking of TV, we should probably take this moment to announce our spin-off podcast that's coming up soon. If you want to tell people what's going on, being that this is pretty much your brainchild.
Well, so I've never seen the show Smallville because I'm not really a Superman fan. And but the universe keeps giving me reasons to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time one of these reasons comes up, like I get really into Booster Gold and that the character turned up in Smallville and things like that. And so I keep thinking, I should watch it so I can see that. But I never got round to it. And then the latest one was Carl Gallner's in it. So as a, what is it, Bart Allen?
Mm.
But it's an Allen. And I saw a little picture
Bart
of
Allen,
him in his Flash costume. Yeah. And so I just kind of joked to Dan and said, oh, you know, now we got our podcast, we should just do another podcast about watching Smallville with like one of us who's never seen it and one who has seen it. And then he came back and was like, yes.
Yeah, no, I'm so freaking looking forward to getting into this because, yeah, Smallville is just a favorite show of mine. I was into it from the moment, like, when the pilot premiered. I was... you know, back in the day where we actually, like, you know, had to watch episodes week to week, like, we were, like, glued to the TV. Actually, I think sometimes we even had friends over, you know, to watch, like, I think we used to do season finale parties. That's right. Oh, wow, I'm just having flashbacks. Anytime there was a season finale, we'd have, like, all of our friends over and make a big deal of it and stuff. So yeah, but no, I don't know what I'm looking forward to more, like getting to talk about it and revisit it, or for you to be watching the show for the first time, because I really think you're gonna love this show. Like, I know that you're into, you know, that kind of, you know, stuff. Like, I think the soap operatic element is going to appeal to you. It's not, you know, like heavily soap opera kind of stuff. It's kind of DC meets 90210 meets X-Files. That's kind of a good way to describe the show. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, stay tuned for it. We don't exactly know when we're going to be launching our first episode, but we will definitely keep everybody posted on the socials. You can find us if you type in Dan and Frankie Go to Hollywood. You'll find us. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. No, it's not Twitter anymore. It's X. Whatever. Yeah, fuck it. It's Twitter. So yeah, come and join us and like keep up with what we're doing, and we will let you know all the things that you want to know. Alright, well, that being said, I think it's time that we got into our main segment, where we are now going to be kicking it off with our big film for the week, which is True Romance. Alrighty, so yes, we picked True Romance as our main film because, why do we pick it? Because it is one of the goddamn best movies ever frickin' made. Well, in my opinion. So yeah, this movie came out in 1993. It was Quentin Tarantino's first ever script that he wrote. That he optioned to instead... He had a choice between directing either this one or Reservoir Dogs, and he went on to do Reservoir Dogs. And, I don't know, I guess he gained like a reasonably successful Hollywood career. So this movie was directed by Tony Scott of Top Gun fame. And... Oh my god, I'm not going to go through who this movie stars because it stars everybody, but the main characters are Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette, or main actors I should say. Look, just quickly, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, Christopher Walken, Bronson Pinchot, Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Rappaport, Saul Rubinek, James Gandolfini, Anna Thompson, Tom Sizemore, Chris Penn. There's so many people in this movie. And it's essentially about a guy who, Christian Slater's character, Clarence Worley, who works in a comic shop. He's got kind of a boring existence, and on his birthday, he goes to see a Kung
triple
Fu
feature.
Double feature, where it was a triple feature. My apologies. Yes, of course, Street Fighter, son of Street Fighter, and sister of Street Fighter. And so as he's sitting there, this mysterious blonde girl named Alabama comes in and spills her popcorn all over him, and they basically instantly fall in love. It turns out she's a call girl who was planted there by his boss to give him a good time. They fall in love. They get married the next day. And when Clarence goes to retrieve her belongings from her former pimp, Drexel, he winds up accidentally taking a suitcase full of cocaine. And so they decide they just want to get rid of, well, sell it and live off the money. But of course, as all good drug deals have, there are a bunch of gangsters who come after them, and then the police get involved, like all this sort of thing, which winds up in one of the most craziest gunfights you could imagine in a hotel room. And so when was the first time you ever saw this film? If you can recall.
No, I didn't see it in the 90s, I don't think.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I did watch it in 2022, and that may have been the first time.
Oh, wow, really?
I think, because I think, my voice is going. I think a lot of movies of this kind that are not like a TV staple that I didn't see in the 90s because I was just a bit too young to I wasn't going to see this at the cinema when I was 11. So I didn't get around to it, and I don't know why it took me so long, because it's Tarantino wrote it, Christian Slater's the main actor, and a whole bunch of other people I like in it, but I don't remember watching it before recent times, so...
Yeah, right. My first memory of this film is a weird one. So back in '93, it was when I had joined my first band, and the guy who put the band together, the guitarist, his name is Mark. He had this obsession with like he was a film nut, and I'm just trying to think. So what year did Reservoir Dogs come out? That wasn't... Because had Reservoir Dogs come out before this film? I'm just trying to remember. I mean, I know for a fact that Pulp Fiction hadn't come out, because that was 94. Yeah, Reservoir Dogs was 92, so that had already come out. So yeah, he was frothing at the mouth about this film. He was like, oh my god, Tarantino, like the guy who did Reservoir Dogs and everything. I'm like, oh, okay. And so anyway, I was dating an absolute fucking psychopath at the time. And Juanita, if you're listening, yep, I'm talking about you. So she was one of the only people that I've ever had a relationship with who we would fight. Like, she was aggressive, she was very combative. She was... it was difficult. And so that day, I think, because we had organised we were going to go to the drive-in to see this film. Like, Mark was taking his car, we would take mine. And we'd ended up having this massive fight that day about, obviously, it would have been something stupid, because that's what they were always about. And I remember we were kind of in the process of, patching things up, but... She wanted me to brush her hair in the car while we were watching the movie and stuff. And so I'm trying to focus on this movie while I'm brushing this idiot's hair and, trying to talk to her about, okay, we're fine, everything's fine. But I'm sort of watching this movie, half watching it. I'm just like, fuck, this movie looks really good. I'm trying to pay attention to it. And then it wasn't till it came out on VHS that I was able to sort of sit down and watch it properly. And it was one of those things. I bought an ex-rental VHS copy because I was like, oh my god, this movie is fucking amazing. And then of course upgraded to DVD, upgraded to Blu-ray, but I'm keeping the DVD because it's got special features, and the Blu-ray has zip. It has got not a single thing on it.
There is an Arrow release.
Oh, okay, right. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I've noticed on Letterboxd, because you did have this at 4.5 stars, and I've noticed you've bumped it up to a full 5 stars, and you've proclaimed it as one of the greatest love stories ever told on film. Which, yeah, I can't disagree with that. I mean, where do you start with how cool this film is?
It's got a fun opening, like when Christian Slater's just in the bar talking to that random blonde woman and about Elvis, and he's like, if I had to fuck a guy, I'd fuck Elvis. And she's like, yeah, I'd fuck Elvis. And he's like, hey, you want to come see a movie with me? And then she finds out it's like 3 kung fu movies, and she's like, no, I'm out of here.
And one thing that I noticed about that scene, so this movie came out, of course, in 93. So that woman at the bar, she was in The Crow, which came out next year. She was Darla, who was sister. Sarah's mother. A
mother.
Yeah. But not only that, I noticed the actor who played Tintin was also in the scene in this film in The Drug Deal with Samuel L. Jackson. So we actually had 2 actors from this film who wound up being in The Crow. So, which I thought was interesting. But, that's the thing with this movie. Like, the dialogue was so incredibly Tarantino-esque. Even though the dude didn't direct this film, like, it really had his signature all over it. I love how the 2 characters, you absolutely love them, you want them to triumph and all this sort of thing, but, like, what they're doing is it is kind of a shitty thing and everything, like, they're, like, trying to sell drugs and stuff, and...
Well, yeah, but, you've jumped ahead, but I was gonna say, like, talking about that first date that they have, like, that was such a, like, cute day that he takes her back to the store and he's like, you want to see what Spider-Man #1 looks like?
Yeah.
And then when they are like, I don't know if they kiss or if it's right after that, cut scene, and next thing, it's Christian Slater's butt, and they're like on the bed. And I'm just like, ooh, here we go. Because, Christian Slater in the 90s, that's a good time.
Oh, yeah. Look, I'm not saying I would fuck a guy, but if I absolutely had to fuck a guy, like if someone had a gun to my head, I'd fuck Christian Slater. How good was it?
But I just thought that was really cute, and how when she's like, hey, I'm actually a call girl, like, he didn't care. But it was funny that he thought, he was just like, oh yeah, I didn't think you'd be into me, you knew there must be something.
Yeah.
And then she's like, no, but actually, I think I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
So they get married.
Yeah, I know. The next day, or the next scene, like they're walking down the steps from the, I guess it was like a registry office or something. But no, that was amazing. And then I guess the next highlight of the film, of course, is
Gary Oldman.
Yes, exactly. Holy shit! That guy is a chameleon. He is one of the most versatile actors in the history of cinema, and
he does some weird parts.
Oh yeah.
And this is one of
them.
Yes,
he's just about unrecognizable. We were actually watching some behind the scenes featurettes on YouTube, and he was sort of like, a lot of that was his own input. Like the misty eye and the dreadlocks and the scars, and he actually turned up and put everything on and said to Tony Scott, well, what do you like, this or this? And Scott was like, well, no, do everything, let's just go over the top with this character. And yeah, my God, it worked so well. But the way he talks and everything, like, you can just tell this is one of the most evil men on the planet. He's scary.
And it's really interesting, all the stuff with the light shape.
Yeah.
And the lighting and the swinging it around and everything.
Yeah.
It made it a really interesting scene rather than just having that conversation just standing
That's the thing. Oh God, aspiring filmmakers and directors can learn so much from this film about how to make a scene interesting. And not only that, actually, it's good that you brought that up, because one of the things that I really noticed more this time around is that the use of locations was just completely, atypical. So, like, when they go to visit Clifford, which is Clarence's father, played by Dennis Hopper, he lives in a trailer next to a train track, and stuff, and it's kind of like a really, really weird and interesting location. And, when they meet up with Bronson Pinchot's character, Elliot, it's on a roller coaster, like, what the hell? Like, it just made it so interesting. The bit after Alabama is, like, beaten senseless and Clarence is looking after her, it's on an abandoned couch next to an airport, Yeah. And I'm just, like, noticing, I'm like, that is one of the things that makes this movie so interesting and so rewatchable, is because it's not just in an apartment or, in a house or in, like, just boring locations or whatever. Like, they really did everything. And I'm sure that was Tarantino. I mean, it's got to be, must have been in the script for those things, but it just made everything so interesting.
And to live up to my expectations, the fashion in this is so good. It's so interesting, and the car. So just so many cool things to look at with the characters. Also, Bronson Pinchot, it's funny seeing him because I mainly think of him as the, like, really over-the-top, crazy businessman in The Langoliers.
Oh, right.
And so it's just, when I see him, because that was made in the 90s, so he looks the same. And so it's just really interesting seeing him in that and going, right.
I mostly knew him as Balky from the show Perfect Strangers. And he was also in the Beverly Hills Cop films as Serge. Not Serge, Serge.
I haven't seen them since
okay. He's like this
I don't remember.
Really over-the-top, flamboyant fashion designer and stuff. And
I'm going to have to revisit.
Yeah. Well, I believe he's in the new Beverly Hills Cop as well. He comes back for that one, which I haven't seen yet. But I think the other standout performance in this movie...
Well, there's two, so who are you going
I'm going
mention?
Brad Pitt as Floyd, the roommate.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was so over the top stoned all the time that he didn't even really know where he was or anything. And he's just funny, I mean, the guy barely has any screen time, but he stole every scene that he was in. I mean, his performance as that character was just outstanding, and I do love the bit, of course, where later on, and I think it was the last time we see him, where it cuts to him on the couch and we got Soundgarden playing, and I'm just like, oh my god!
Yeah, I wrote that down.
Yeah,
no, that's when the guys turn
gangsters,
up.
Yeah,
it just opens on the scene with Outshine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it's really loud too. Yes. It's like an obvious song choice over, and I'm like, because I didn't remember that.
Time. No, that always stood out.
And the other person who has one scene, Christopher Walken.
Yes.
And not only one good scene, but it's him opposite Dennis Hopper. So
that scene is actually regarded as one of the greatest movie scenes of the 90s. Not just by me. Like, if you go onto YouTube, there are a ton of videos where people analyze that scene, and really go into. Actually, I think there was even we were listening to an interview with Quentin Tarantino about the film. And even he was saying, like, he was just so proud of that scene and the fact that they cast those two legendary actors. And he said for him, getting to see that scene play out with those two greats, he said that, and it was almost word for word what he'd written and everything. He said it was just one of the most joyous moments of his career, yeah. Okay, so I've got to say I'm actually holding my 3.5-month-old daughter in my arms right now, and Frankie's been interacting with her through the screen because this kid is glued to screens at the moment. So she is watching her Auntie Frankie.
Well, she just waved.
And she just waved.
She put her arm up.
Yeah,
so
you know she waved.
Wave
and Frankie waved back, and so oh my god, that just warmed my heart. What's Auntie Frankie doing? What's she doing? Yeah, anyway, that's a weird thing for a podcast, but there you go. But that scene, like, oh god, it's so brilliant. I mean, look, it's not a spoiler. You know how it's going to end. You know where it's going, and I love that moment where Dennis Hopper realizes what's about to happen, and just the look on his face. It's just like, all right, here we go, and yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's brilliantly written. It is a masterclass.
It's pretty amazing that they got like such a cast to come, and so many like big names that just had one or two scenes or whatever. Like, it's a joy for us.
Oh,
to watch,
it really is,
to have so many people.
Yeah.
And I loved the cops that were like almost like a spoof of cop shows. Yeah. And so it's just so funny that they're just so over the top. It's hilarious.
Ordinarily, I really don't like Tom Sizemore. He's kind of a repulsive human being in real life, so I'm not a fan of his, but I do like a lot of the movies that he's in, like a lot of the roles that he plays, and this was no different. I really enjoyed his interaction with Chris Penn. And yeah, like what else? I mean, just so many weird, like, when you introduce to Michael Rappaport's character, who's auditioning for a role in TJ Hooker, I mean, that is just such a quirky, weird little thing. But, in the confines of the story, it works so well, because it ties in with the whole movie producer thing and stuff. Harper, what's going on? What are you trying to take over the podcast? Are you?
Doesn't like Michael Rappaport.
Yeah, but yeah, like when you first meet him, you're sort of like, why am I watching a guy at an audition and stuff? And then of course it ties in, brilliantly. Like everything in this movie was just tied together perfectly. It is, yeah. I mean, look, we've both given it 5 stars. Like, what, you didn't like it? Well, what have you got to say about? You haven't even seen it. What are you talking about? It's rated R. You're not allowed to watch R-rated movies because you're only 3.5 months old. What else? I mean, yeah, obviously we're going to go into the ending and stuff when we get to the spoiler section, because there's a lot to talk about that, including the alternate ending for this film, which wasn't quite as it panned out the way that we saw it. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else to say about it? The musical score. I've got to hand it to the musical score in this film, which was just so brilliant.
I don't agree.
You don't agree? Okay, this is interesting. Why is that?
It just, I don't know, it was just a bit annoying to me.
That main tune?
I much preferred when the songs kicked in.
Yeah, okay, because, I really liked it. I don't know if it's because it always reminded me of the film or whatever, but, I was a big fan of that tune, but, yeah. Oh, well, that's fine. I mean, it obviously didn't detract from your enjoyment of the movie.
No, well, I mean, that's never going to happen. It's just a bit of music. It's fine. Everyone has different music taste.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, look, if there are people out there who haven't seen this film, my God, we can't recommend it enough. It is absolute perfection. It is an action film. It is, with comedic elements. It's a
very funny,
violent love story with just some of the best performances from the biggest cast you will ever see. I
guess that's one of the good things about it, is it covers so many things. Yeah. You get to enjoy your romance, but with your action, violence, but it's funny.
Yeah.
It's darkly funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Or sometimes not even darkly funny, like the whole roller coaster thing with Elliot.
Yeah, that's right.
And when he gets pulled over by the cops later on.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, there's lots of just
pure comedy,
really funny things going on. Yeah.
So yeah, no, look, if there are people out there listening to this who haven't seen it, oh my God, get on board this film straight away because, yeah, it is just, amazing. So, yeah. All right, what are we going to talk about next? Do you want to do your movie or my movie?
You can pick.
We're going with Lady Macbeth because I am so freaking curious as to what you thought of this film because you've not rated it on Letterboxd or anything.
Yeah, because I just watched it last night, so I thought I'll have the element of surprise and not let you know.
Right.
until we're recording.
Okay. Well, before we get into our thoughts, so Lady Macbeth came out in 2016, has nothing to do with Shakespeare whatsoever.
Does it?
Hey, no, of course not. The title was only because...
Okay, I saw some... I thought maybe there were some parallels in the themes, but...
Oh, yeah. No, in that respect, yeah, because...
Oh, yeah, you just meant it's not a character.
Yeah.
It's not that character.
Yeah, not set in like Shakespearean times and stuff. So according to the Letterboxd synopsis, rural England, 1865, Catherine, suffocated by her loveless marriage to a bitter man and restrained by her father's tyranny, unleashes an irresistible force within her so powerful that she will stop at nothing to get what she wants. Oh boy, that's never a true word has been spoken. So I caught this movie back in, I think it was 2019. So after I saw Fighting with My Family and was blown away by Florence Pugh, I, suddenly was like, oh my God, I need to see more of what she's done. And so this movie was on streaming on Stan. And so I thought, okay, let's check it out. And I went and bought the Blu-ray as fast as I could because it was one of those things. I loved the movie so much. I had to own it because what a wild journey this film was. What are your thoughts on this movie?
Well, I thought it was interesting because I watched the Essex Serpent this week, which is a miniseries also set in the 1800s, a bit later than this one though. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch this now and get into the similar time period. I like period dramas. I hated this movie. This was like, this made me think of Challenges because this is a movie of awful people doing awful things, except Challenges had tennis in between. This has nothing in between. Like, it's really boring at the start. I watched it in 2 sittings. I just was so angry. And
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I can't be mad at you for saying that because you're right. Look, it is a slow film. There's no doubt about that. And it is people doing horrible things, but I found it interesting. So it starts off, we meet Catherine and we instantly feel sympathy for her because, she's in this loveless marriage. Her husband is a prick. And she's kind of got this rebellious charisma to her in my book. And I just, found that I loved her character at the start, but then when she sort of starts doing terrible things, at first I'm kind of like, okay, well, I can kind of see why she's doing that. Like it makes sense. But then, of course, things progress later on. I know, sweetheart, it's all right. We still like Auntie Frankie, even though she didn't like this movie. See, you've upset my daughter. No, by the end, it's like, oh my God, like, she's done something really bad, but you sort of, because it's a short movie, I mean, it's only 80-something minutes, and...
it felt long. Although I will say I am sick, so everything feels long that I'm watching. But I watched this in 2 sittings because I felt like I'd spent so much time watching the first 50 minutes or something.
Wow.
So I came back to watch the rest.
Because I kind of felt like, you know, even though she's done all these awful things by the end, I still remember how I felt about her at the start.
That's interesting because I didn't care for her at all.
Really?
Like at the beginning, you didn't know anything about her. It just kind of jumped into her, like, after she's married, turned up in this house. And then you could kind of get, you know, she's in this crappy situation, so she's not happy or whatever. But basically, once the more of her personality came out, it was just clear that she didn't care about anybody. And that just kind of kept increasing and growing as the movie went along. So I didn't feel a turn, just a escalation.
Okay, right. Because, yeah, like I said, because, you know, there was a scene at the start where, like, you know, her husband is you know, demanding her, like, you know, to disrobe or something, or whatever he's doing, but, like, she's just kind of laughing at him, and I'm just like, oh, man, I love her personality so much, you know? Because watching it last night, like, I actually, to be honest, didn't really remember that much of it. I remembered that I really enjoyed it.
Well, there's not much to remember.
Well, yeah, but I remembered that I enjoyed it because I bought the Blu-ray and stuff. But I sort of had a vague recollection of the plot. But so watching it last night, it was a big memory refresher. But no, I really enjoyed it. I loved her character at the start of it and everything. And I just, you know, obviously I didn't condone anything that she did by the end, but I just thought it was fascinating to watch. You know, maybe the aspect of me that is fascinated by serial killers and the darker aspects of humanity kind of made the film appealing to me. But yeah, that's really interesting. But yeah, no, you're right. It is a very slow-paced film. There's no doubt about that.
Well, nothing happens at the start. They explain very little. Like, I didn't realise the old guy was the father-in-law until a time later when someone said about him being away or whatever and said... Right. Because they didn't say anything. It was just like, she's having dinner and there's her husband and these other three men. So I'm like, I don't know who they are. And,
okay, because I did pick up that it was his dad, so I don't know.
Did you just remember from the first time? Because they don't say any... He's not in it except when he's reprimanding her to stay awake for your husband. But I didn't know why he was there saying that, because we didn't know who he was. Okay. And I was like,
no, I got the impression that he was...
friend or...
That was yeah. What? No, I
because, I mean, you don't know who the other two guys were. I don't even know if they're guys that... One was the doctor or whatever that turned up later. I don't remember. But right. It's just...
No, I picked up that it was the
But dad. Yeah, it's just like she sits on a couch and she is in her room and the maid's opening the shutters and there's just really nothing for the first... I don't even know how long it was. But a long time. Until the husband goes travelling. And that's when things... start happening.
But that's what I mean. So for me, I saw all of that part as interesting character development for her, and you know, an insight into.
It did not.
Yeah.
I guess slightly. I didn't feel like I knew who she was at all. Someone acting out, yes, but I didn't feel like I knew who she was. Really, as a person?
No, that's true. Like, you don't know anything about her, but she was kind of, to me, like she was symbolic of, you know, oppression by the patriarchy, and especially in that time. So to me, you know, she was more of a symbol. It's
a strange way to portray that.
Yeah.
And then I thought, because I had read a review before I watched it. I don't know if... My mum. I wonder why they don't want her going outside at all. Cuts to the fourth sex scene in 10 minutes. Maybe that's why.
I love
and so, so I thought it was going to be, okay, her husband who won't sleep with her goes away, so she's going to have an affair with someone, and it's going to be that kind of movie. And then that happens, and it's like, oh, there's this guy who's stripped and assaulted the maid, and then forces himself into her bedroom to presumably assault her as well. And then she's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And so straight away, awful people, all awful people doing awful things.
I know, but...
I thought there might be a bit of romance.
Well, it kind of was. Not really. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
There's no romance in this film.
It's just a strange idea. I mean, it becomes obvious later that, because she does not care about anybody. Yeah. Kind of. It's a weird. She's kind of got. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much to say without being spoilery of where things go, but she just has a very weird idea about him and him about her, and
for sure,
what's going on, and it's just such a weird. She's very. I don't know if she's like a bit of a psychopath.
Oh, totally.
She just
after what she did, there's no doubt.
It's just weird, like I know, but even like in the lead up that with this guy, that she's just like doesn't care what he did to anybody. She just wants him and will do anything to have him, and brings him into the house. I didn't even know until she meets him. I didn't even know that. That's the other weird thing. Like, you don't know that there's anyone else besides the maid and the cook in the house. And then suddenly she goes outside when the husband's away, and it's like, oh, there's all these guys in the outbuilding. So there are other people on the property.
Yeah.
And she's just not even caring that she's with this groomsman while her husband's away.
Yeah.
And doesn't care about who knows or what. It's a very weird.
To me, it was a character study more than, that's all it was. It was just a character study of this vile, manipulative woman, and it's sort of, it is one of those things to me that kind of makes you realize, that underneath the surface, people can be different. I guess that was probably like one of the main themes of the film, was that, do you really know people? I mean, for all I know, you could be a mass murderer and I don't know. You're probably not, but who knows? No, I'm just kidding. And I did think Florence Pugh was absolutely amazing in the role. I thought she did such a great job with that performance. And it was another one of those things that just made me absolutely love the woman's work. Like, I think she is such a brilliant actress. For me, the only thing, it did move pretty slowly, but which may not have been necessary. So
I think it's not like, I like slow films. It's more like how it's done, because there's slow and then there's done. Right. And so I wasn't, I mean, her dress is pretty, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
There was nothing interesting in the slowness of the nothing happening at the beginning.
Yeah, no, look, that's fair. Like I said, I can't criticize you for not appreciating it for that, because it is a fairly slow movie. I mean, even last night I was watching it again and thinking, wow, I don't remember it being this slow, and But yeah, this is my thing. This is like The Social Network. Like, I know it's a well-made film and, all of that stuff. But I hate everybody in it, and it's such a, bad time hanging out with all these awful people that I just really dislike that film. Right, yeah.
So this is similar to that. There is nothing in this to sort of redeem it from all the awfulness of everybody in it.
No, that's fair enough. All right, so there you go. You got two very different perspectives on this film, neither of which are right or wrong.
I know that I'm more in the minority going by the ratings. It's not hugely highly rated, but majority of people I follow have rated it, well, three stars is the lowest until I add mine, and then but it goes up to 4.5.
I gave it 4. Because like I said, I did think it moved quite slowly, and that probably didn't need to. But but no, for me personally, there was so much to enjoy. I found it fascinating. I would definitely watch it again in a heartbeat.
I hope I never have to watch it again.
Well, I'm sorry that I put you through it. I mean, obviously we don't know if one or the other is going to enjoy each other's films, but So to anyone out there who's thinking of watching this film, there's 2 very different perspectives, and you can make up your mind from that if it sounds like your kind of film. So I think we actually really covered both of our viewpoints quite well there, didn't we? Like, if there's people out there who are like, well, I can handle a slow film if it means
it's so funny we just talk about slow when I talked about Werkmeister Harmonies, which there's a scene that I'll just go back to that for a second. There's a scene where 2 characters are walking next to each other down the street, and the camera is looking at their profiles, and Janosch is going on about the whale and to his uncle, who doesn't want to hear about it, so he kind of cuts off the conversation. So then they're just walking in silence, and the camera's just walking along with them, walking. After a while, Janosch looks at him and then just keeps walking, and there's this whole scene, I don't know how long it goes on for, but a really long time, just the camera following them walking down the street. So I can do slow, but there has to be something to it that is gripping me, and I didn't feel that.
No, like you said, there are scenes of fairly mundane things of like the maid coming in and waking her and opening the blinds and things, and I totally get that, but but no, look, it's up to people, so it does have
you never know until you
watch it. It does
have
despicable characters doing despicable things in it. There's no doubt about that. But to me, I found that fascinating. Who knows? But anyway, all right. So moving on to the film that you recommended for me, which I didn't hate it, so at least there's that.
I mainly picked this one because I saw it a couple of years ago, because Cillian Murphy's in it, and it's set in a.
So what's the movie?
It's following a video store owner watching the detectives. It is, and so Cillian Murphy is Neil, who owns a gumshoe video, and is obsessed with movies, and this movie is kind of like making fun at film nerds, so it's pretty hilarious. There's him and a couple of guys that kind of work there and hang out, and so their movie comments are pretty funny. And then he meets Violet, played by Lucy Liu, who is a real live wire and just comes in and kind of turns his life upside down with all her crazy antics and things, and it's just a comedy, kind of a rom-com thing, and so I just thought it would be fun to throw it at you. 1, because it's set in a video store, and 2, because Lucy Liu's character is that kind of really chaotic character that I was interested to see if you would enjoy her. Here we
go. All right. So, for starters, this is not the movie that I thought I was going to be watching based on the synopses that I've read, because, let's look at Letterboxd. So Neil, a self-proclaimed film geek and owner of Gumshoe Video, has always been content to live vicariously through his favourite films noir. But when he meets Violet, a real-life femme fatale, his mundane world gets turned upside down, and the line between reality and the movies quickly begins to blur. And the movie is called Watching the Detectives. So I was under the impression this was going to be something where she comes into his life and, there's like some kind of... And, I mean, it describes her as a femme fatale. I think that is like... I mean, Florence Pugh's character in Lady Macbeth is a femme fatale. Violet is not.
So they've just said that because he's into film noir.
So I kind of
and she's a female. So they've just gone, wow, she's a femme fatale.
I kind of thought there was going to be this thing where there's like an actual mystery or like a murder mystery or something like that. And like, you know, he becomes involved in that and, you know, his life becomes a detective film because it's called Watching the Detectives. And so, you know, you do get that scene, you know, where like after they've gone and vandalized a rival video store and stuff, and like, you know, these two detectives come in. I'm like, here we go. Okay, this is where the plot comes in. Bow, red herring. And then it just goes on with her trying to teach him that people who sit around watching movies all day are boring people and he should do something. And I'm like, hang on. Like, what are you trying to say here? Because, you know, yeah. Okay, so things I liked. Yeah, like you said, the video store aspect I loved because from, what was it, 1999 to 2007, I worked in video stores, and it was one of my most favorite places in the world to work. And this movie really captured that kind of thing. Actually, there were so many things I was like, oh my God, that happened to me. You know, like when Violet comes up and she is claiming that she doesn't have ID and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I've been down that road, you know, where someone wants to sign up and they've got like an electricity bill or something. It's like, that doesn't prove who you are. I need like photo ID. Oh, I don't have photo ID. It's like, well, you can't get a membership then. So, you know, there were a lot of things I was like, oh my God, yeah, that happened and that happened and stuff. As for Violet, nah. I found her character insufferable. You know, by about the second encounter with her and I'm like, what do you just ditch her, man? Like, she sucks. Like,
Interesting. Like,
I see where you're coming from. Because you
like annoying characters like that. Like the really super chaotic characters.
I'll have to work out what it was exactly about this one that didn't appeal to me because, I couldn't get on board with her character. There were moments throughout the film, like, I wasn't just like, all right, hate her, that's it. Like, there were moments where I was like, you know, I even said to Kylie at one point towards the end of the film, I was like, I just don't know what to make of her. Like, you know, she's annoying as hell, but on occasion, she is kind of funny and cute, you know, and stuff. So, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. The whole message of you know, like, watching movies is you know, if that's all you do, I mean, how did this movie appeal to you? Like, you are that person. Like, you watch a lot of movies.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's making fun of movie people. I'm not taking it seriously. I know. Also, I don't care. Like, I'm a lazy person. I would hate to have someone trying to get me do the stuff that she's doing with him. I would not be any part of that.
No, of course not.
That's too much. I'm like, give me Christian Slater and True Romance. I'll go see a triple bill movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, look, I didn't dislike the film. I thought it was fine while I was watching it. I wouldn't watch it again. Like, you know, I've seen it and it didn't really sort of grab me enough to want to ever revisit it. I did like Cillian Murphy's performance. And yeah, there were some great moments. Like, I love the bit where he thinks she's into musicians, and so, you know, he performs a little concert in his garage or whatever with all those cutouts around there. Look, I'm going to confess, when I lived at my last place and I was on my own and I had a lot of Harley Quinn life-size cutouts around, sometimes I would be standing there playing my guitar in the living room, whatever, and I'd kind of look around and be like, hey, how you doing, and stuff, and kind of pretend that I was playing to people. So, you know, that was another scene I was watching. I was like, wow, I can see myself in this character. So, you know, that was fun. There were fun moments in it.
The picnic scene?
Yes, that was hilarious, the way that ended up. I laughed out loud at that. Yeah, but again, I was kind of like, what is she doing? Like, that's just, she's a shit person. Actually, yeah, you know what? That's mainly it. Okay, I think I've figured it out. So the chaotic characters that I like, a la Harley Quinn and Nellie from Babylon and stuff, are more, they do shit things to themselves. Whereas I thought Violet was kind of a character who was more chaotic in terms of being destructive to other people's lives. Maybe that's it, do you think?
I don't know.
I'm just psychoanalyzing myself right now. But I think maybe that's where I draw the line. Like, it's fine to, live in your own chaos, but then when you bring other people into that chaos unwillingly, it's sort of like, I've got to kind of draw the line there. So look, I mean, I'd definitely recommend the film to people. Just don't expect too much, I guess, but...
Well, it's not that kind of film. It's just a fun comedy. It's not amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't recommend this because it's a favorite, just because it's, it's a bit of fun. Yeah.
By the way, to anyone who is listening to like sucking and slurping sounds and wondering what the hell is going on, I am feeding my daughter right now. So yeah, you're just going to have to deal with it. Look, it was fine. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was just sort of, it was there, it did its thing. Yeah. So I'm glad I watched it. I mean, because I like to open my horizons and see new things. I think also maybe it had something to do with the fact that I'm not a big fan of Lucy Liu. I don't know. I liked her in Kill Bill. Wasn't a huge fan of her in Charlie's Angels. I can't remember what else I've seen her in, but
I started watching Elementary, so that's the main thing I'm seeing her in at the moment.
Yeah, right. Let me have a look here. Well, Kung Fu Panda doesn't count. I don't remember her in Chicago. I don't remember her in Jerry Maguire. She was in Shazam? Wow. Okay, I don't remember her in Shazam. But anyway. I'm not a really big fan of the Lou. But, yeah. That's just me. Yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much covers our homework films. So, all right. What are we going to be watching next time around for our main feature event? Because you picked this one.
Well, as kind of mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Funnily enough.
Even though we independently came up with those things, we are going to watch Happy Death Day.
Yes, the first one, that is. Because
the other one's got a different title.
Yeah. I know, but just in case people are thinking, hang on, didn't they mention Happy Death Day earlier? And so I'm just clarifying for people.
Well, you mentioned it when talking about...
Yeah, but this podcast feels like it's gone on for about 10 hours by now because we've had so many breaks and things. So even I can't remember what we talked about already.
Isn't it a good thing we switched to recording in
It
the
is
daytime?
a very good thing, because otherwise it'd be like 1 a.m. right now. I'm very happy to revisit that film, because that is...
Yeah, it's been a while since I think I did it in one of my 31 Days of Horror, maybe maybe not last year, maybe the year before. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to revisit
it's
that.
Such a good time, that film. All right, well... I have, as always, I have 3 films that I would really love for you to watch. So I am going to read you some reviews here, and you are going to pick one. So the first review I've got, hang on, I'm not going to mention that first bit because that says the name of the movie. This film is a strange murder mystery managing to, at least for a long while, ignore any sense of urgency to the investigation, yet somehow still feeling tense and exciting. The cause of this, I think, lies in no small part in the fact that this film is absolutely dripping in atmosphere. Yeah, so there's that one. The second one is a film where someone has said, criminally underrated and I will die on that hill. I was raised watching this movie and being told this is where we as a society were going to end up, and it scared the shit out of me. But it's pretty funny, and I quote it endlessly. And then the third one, I've actually got 2 reviews here, both very short. One of the most random yet humorous films I have watched. All of the small jokes and cameos were incorporated really well, which I enjoyed. Considering this is a spoof, I was shocked how good things looked. Even the purposefully bad stuff looked decent. But yeah, it's a classic spoof, so it's great. And there you have it. Those are my 3 films that
I pick the first one.
Yes! I mean, cool. You are going to be watching a film... Speaking of Christian Slater, you're going to be watching a film called The Name of the Rose from 1986, which I know you want to watch because on Letterboxd it is part of your want-to-watch thingamajig. So... it's set in, I think it's like the 1800s or something, or 1700s, maybe earlier. It's a Sherlock Holmes style murder mystery set in an abbey or a monastery or something.
Oh, look at his hair.
Yeah, I know. They've got like mad monk hairdos. But yeah, Sean Connery and Christian Slater are kind of like your Holmes and Watson pair. But Ron Perlman is in this film, and his character is so memorable. He's kind of scary and stuff, but yeah, no, it is a really brilliant film, and I will never forget the resolution of the mystery, like, you know, the way these murders were taking place and stuff. It's actually quite genius. So yeah, I am dying to revisit this film, so I'm so glad you picked this one. And it's got Christian Slater, so we're still going with that. Yeah. Cool.
I have crappy reviews because I hate trying to find reviews every time. That's all right. So it's pretty basic. Okay, so first movie is a dark, dense, and beautifully crafted thriller with a killer ending that will stick with you long after it's over, combined with the film's emotions remain profound, unnerving, and at times downright spellbinding.
Intriguing.
And film number 2, a suspenseful, thought-filled film propelled by the main actor's astounding performance. And the third one, I've combined 2 again. This movie is a high adrenaline freight train of fun and entertainment that barely stays on the tracks as it zooms through wacky town at 300 miles per hour. Scene to scene, there's pure hijinks as our group of silly teens are tormented by an elusive alien that has glowing green eyes.
What the?
With a bonus. There's a moment where the boom mic drops into the frame and one of the characters uses it to swing across the room and escape from the monster, and it is beautiful.
Oh my god. You know, this whole time I'm like, ooh, the first one's appealing to me because I like an ending that's going to stick with me and stuff, but how can I resist the third one? Like the boom mic thing, and like, no, we're going that one.
You know, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have read that one out.
Why?
Because it's Shannon September, and I picked 2 Michael Shannon films and this other one, and you picked the other one.
Wow.
But I do love this film, so I'm happy to revisit it.
What is it?
And it's called... Let me just... There's Nothing Out There.
Okay, I don't know this film.
Vinegar Syndrome put it out, which is how I came to see it.
Okay, I'm just writing this down. There's nothing... Who's in this film?
No one I've ever...
Oh, wow, okay. Cool. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, as someone said in a review, a D movie.
Right.
And I've heard people mention that it's a trauma movie, but I don't know for sure. It doesn't say specifically anywhere, and I haven't had time to look it up. But that kind of...
I would look it up if I didn't have my hands
fun.
full of baby and bottle right now. But cool. No, I could. That sounds like my kind of film. It really does. So yeah, you got me on that one. All right, so we're gonna jump into our spoiler section, the sealed section for now. But yes, so to everybody, as always, who doesn't really want to hear any spoilers, this is where we're going to love you and leave you. So, yes, make sure you come back next time where we're going to be talking about Happy Death Day, Name of the Rose, and There's Nothing Out There. Also,
What a
yes,
fix.
exactly. My God. Also, stay tuned for Dan and Frankie Go to Smallville, where we're going to start getting into Smallville and watch all 10 seasons in the space of 3 days. No, we're not really. No, we're going to be doing this just whenever we can. But yeah, that's going to be a good time. Absolutely. So yeah. Whoops, my child is choking. You're right. You're good. Okay. Yes, to everybody, though, who wants to come along and listen to some spoilers about the movies that we've discussed, come on in. To everyone else, see you next time. Stay safe. Watch lots of movies. Bye for now. Let's go. Okay, so True Romance. I guess the only real sort of spoilery thing is discussing the ending, really, do you think? Yeah, so I love the ending. I am so glad that Clarence lived. I mean, so we have this massive shootout in the hotel room between Clarence and co. Then there's the cops, there's the drug dealers, there's the gang who are after the drugs, and of course the producers, henchmen, it is freaking massive in such a small room, and it is so cool the way it's shot, like the way the pillows get shot, and there's just feathers everywhere, and the lighting from the projector, and it just looks amazing. But then, of course, Clarence gets shot in the head. Now, there was actually an alternate ending to the film where he didn't make it, and Alabama ends up raising little Elvis on her own, but I just think it would have really detracted from the ending, after everything they've been through.
That would have been the worst ending, because it's set up, especially at the beginning, as such a romance. To have it end in tragedy like that would just be the worst.
Wouldn't it? So, no, I mean, it kind of sucks that, because, obviously it's, when they're playing with the kid on the beach, it's a few years later because the kid's a toddler. And he's, Clarence is wearing an eye patch, so he's clearly lost his eye. But, I mean, that kind of sucks. He's never going to be able to enjoy 3D movies, and he, might walk around in circles a bit. But, but at least, he got to live. So, no, I was very happy about that. But, I think that's...
So what was the original Tarantino version?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I'm not 100% sure, and I think this did come up in one of the interviews that we saw, but I actually can't remember right now.
Let's see if Google will give it to me.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Tarantino was really happy with the way the film turned out overall.
No, his ending was the one where he dies.
Right. I know there was just a few things that he wasn't happy with. That might have actually been one of them, yeah. And I couldn't remember if it was this film or Natural Born Killers that he had such a tantrum about, but it was NBK that he distanced himself from and wanted his name removed from it and all that sort of stuff. But no, he was very happy with how True Romance turned out. But so. I don't know. I think that's pretty much, as far as spoilers go, that's all I wanted to talk about that one. Lady Macbeth. Yeah, it was so funny last night. Kylie and I have not had much sleep over the last few nights, and so we started watching this movie at 11:30 last night, and she was asleep within the first few minutes because, you're probably not going to be surprised about that. And when the movie finished and everything, and I was sort of packing everything up and everything, she woke up and she's like, did I wake up to a moment where they were killing a kid? And I'm like, damn, I wish you hadn't seen that. But yes, there is. So, yeah, I mean, the character progression, like I said, well, for me, you start off she has an affair on her husband, but I'm like, okay, that's kind of justified. But then she winds up killing her husband, and I'm like, okay, well, it's extreme, but the dude had it coming. And then, so she gets lumped with this kid who was apparently a ward of her husband that she didn't know about, and she doesn't really want the kid around and everything, so she and her lover killed the kid. They put a pillow over his face while he holds the kid's legs down, and it's actually a very disturbing moment. And it's sort of that point you're like, yeah, she's not the nice person that I liked at the start.
Oh, I thought that long before.
Yeah, right, fair enough. No, see, that's what I mean. To me, a lot of the stuff she was doing at the start was kind of justified, but yeah, that wasn't. And then, of course, yeah, by the end of the film, she frames the guy she's having an affair with and the mute maid, and they get sent off in a police cart. And yeah, she just sort of, well, it's a bit of an ambiguous ending. Like, she's pregnant, but and that like everyone's abandoned the house and she's there by herself. And maybe they could do like a mashup. Like they could have Barry Keoghan's character from Saltburn dancing around naked in the house while she's sitting there looking miserable. I don't know. It was just kind of a bleak ending and stuff, but I still found it fascinating.
Bleak. I mean, bleak in that I feel for that poor kid that has to grow up with her as a mother.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Like, yeah. But again,
but I mean, is that what she wanted? Like, because she just has no emotions, you don't know if she's happy and she's like, yes, now I've got the place to myself,
or if she's going to go hang herself,
or if she cares that she's like got no servants anymore.
Yeah. I mean, look, maybe she's going to go and top herself or something. Like, who knows? Oh,
I doubt she would.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
She seems the type to hang around and just be awful.
Yeah, true. But anyway, I don't really have anything spoilery about watching The Detectives.
It's not that kind of movie, really. It's just a whole lot of
hijinks. Basically, there you go. There's your spoiler. It's a lot of hijinks. All right. Well, I guess we're done. I guess I can go and put this little one to bed who's getting very sleepy right now. Sorry, are we boring you? I hope this isn't the audience reaction to like people out there listening to the podcast right now. That's like, oh God, are they still talking? Yeah, no, we're sending everybody a spiritual bottle of formula to keep you awake. I don't know what I'm talking about now. Anyway, all right, we're out of here. We will be back in a couple of weeks with Happy Death Day, Name of the Rose, There's Nothing Out There. Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for Smallville. Stay tuned for all the crazy things that we get up to. And yeah, watch. And